Hi friends, Shauna Klingerman here, and I'm so excited to finally be back with another Learn to Bullet Journal with me video. Today we're going to talk about how I put together my year at a glance pages. I almost don't want to show you right now because these pages were a whole journey, just a little peek. So the disclaimer I need to give you before we get started is that the filming of this was kind of a bit of a hot mess. As you watch, you will see why, but basically I recorded in lots of different spaces on my lap for a while, so please forgive me when things are shaky, when things are like out of frame and a little weird. I almost didn't share my process because of how imperfect the filming is. However, part of what I want this series to be about is actually the process of learning to bullet journal and trying new things, which means I'm just going to show you the whole messy process. So before I just ramble on and on, let's go ahead and head on over into the videos, and please just be patient with me if you start to feel like, seasick from all the wobbling. You'll have to forgive me, but I'm hoping that all of this helps you in your own process, making your own decisions as you are building your own year at a glance pages. And also, before I say any more, as always, all of the supplies I use will be listed in the comments below. This journal is from Archer and Olive. I'm working in a B5 journal. And I think that's all I need to say for now. Let's head over and start this crazy process of building some pages for our year at a glance. Okay, so here we are again with my new beloved bullet journal. As you can see, we have our start page, a blank page for something, our guides, the index, and now we are going to move on to our year at a glance pages. As you can see right here, my intention starting out was to have two pages facing each other, one for 2022 and one for 2023. As you can see, I already penciled in where I thought each month was going to be. I figured out my spacing. I thought I'd figured out my dates. And so I just thought, let's just dive in with our pen and start writing. So in order to have an idea of where the calendars all belonged, I started with the days of the week at the top of each calendar column. But as you can see, I messed up so many times along the way. So, of course, there was a need for extra whiteout, which I have been using my acrylic graph pen for. And then I just wrote the numbers for the dates. I wrote Saturday's dates first just so that I wouldn't get off kilter, although I still made quite a few mistakes. And as I went, I also was just noticing that this pen was a little bit hard to write teeny tiny with, which is going to be super necessary for these year at a glance pages. I did find that my acrylic graph whiteout needed several coats, so I would keep writing and then come back to it 3 or sometimes 4 times to get it all whited out. To be honest, this process took me so long, and in the end, I just wasn't loving it. Okay, friends, you will have to bear with me because this is when my video gets a little bit more shoddy. I got tired of working at my desk, and so now you're going to see me working on my lap desk, which is both shaky and also just not a perfect setup. However, I just did want to show you what step 2 of my year at a glance looked like, which Spoiler alert, this is not even where we landed, but I wanted you to see my process of trial and error. Here you can see me with a pencil, a ruler, and a sheet of craft paper from one of Archer and Olive's notepads. These notepads are so convenient, not only for having access to the quality Archer and Olive paper, even out of a notebook, but also because they serve as a great way to cover up mistakes in your journal, which is what I'm going to do here. Well, eventually. Once I have my lines and my format kind of penciled in, I decide that I'm going to use a white gel pen, this one also from Archer and Olive, to write out all of my numbers and all of my dates. At this point, I realized that I had numbered wrong, but the good news is that this handy sand eraser from Tombow erases those gel pen marks super easy peasy. So I'm going to erase my mess up and then cover it again. Numbering. No words, friends. I did this 2 full times, and I'll tell you what, it is a process. So we're speeding this up because it took me some real time. As I was working on this, I'm going to be honest, I was like, this is terrible. It is not working for me. And although I'm really happy with where I landed, looking back at this video, I can see that it actually looks pretty darn good. I say this just to remind us that sometimes what we need in a project that feels like it's going wrong is just a little bit of time and distance. So be kind to yourself, and if you're feeling a little bit numbered out, please give yourself a nice little break. Before I write my month titles, I want to just practice with the amount of space that I have. So I flip my paper over and write a few month titles to get a feel for it. And then after some experimenting, I decide to pull out my 0.7 tip acrylograph white marker and write my months in a sweet little script right above my days of the week. But could I let well enough alone? No, I could not. So I decided to write my days again with a smaller tip pen. And then I thought, what if I cut out all of the little calendars and place them, glue them just right on top of the other calendars to kind of add some dimension and take away from the numbers I just wasn't loving so much. However, once I took my little square and started placing it around the page, I just realized it wasn't going to work. Okay, so fast forward with me because now I am sitting here with a new calendar page. I decided to use a full sheet of craft paper and a really fine point micron along with my Tombow brush lettering pen. And this time I just went for all black. The next thing to obsess about was my year. I went back and forth and tried so many things for this one as well. I counted my squares, I did even spacing, I tried to emulate fonts, but I kept struggling with how it turned out. Here you can see me with a printout of the font I'm trying to emulate, and I even made like a grid on it to try to copy it onto my page. And it turned out pretty good, but you're going to see in the end that all of this work was kind of for naught. but I thought I might as well show you. Here I am coloring in my date with a black 1.5 tip marker from Faber-Castell. By this point, I'm getting pretty eager to be done with all of this, so let's pull out our eraser and clean this puppy up. Before I trim this to put it in my book, I am going to make it a little bit shorter so that it will fit in my paper cutter, but also so that it will have a fun effect. I go ahead and tear it across the bottom. And then I go in just a few more times to get it looking nice and even while retaining that messy, torn feel. I already counted the spaces in my grid, and so I know exactly where I need to trim off the edges so that it will fit perfectly on my page with just a little bit of white on the edge. So that's what I'm doing here. As I place it on my page in place, I realize that what I really want is to have this more centered. So I make the impulsive decision to tear off my title and go ahead and have torn edges on both the bottom and on the top. Now, when I place it on my page, I am looking for exactly where I need to put it so that it will be centered and also cover up all the lines that I'm trying to hide. You will see here that I erase all the things that are going to show, and then I pull out my ruler and I start getting a little obsessive about counting. You'll have to forgive the crazy here. Sometimes I can be a little neurotic, friends. Now that I have all my measurements, though, I can go ahead and print out the number 2022 in that font that I so desperately want to use. And I'm going to use an old trick that I learned, I think, just when I was a little girl, where you take your printout, you flip it upside down, and then you add pencil shading behind it, so that when you flip it back over, you can carefully trace the edges of whatever design you want, and it will leave pencil marking behind. I know that some of this is not exactly in frame, and it is especially shaky when I am shading and such, but like I said, friends, filming issues this time around, and sometimes that's just going to have to be good enough. Now I can actually make my year look the way that I had envisioned it in my head, and I'm going to trace over those pencil shadows with my same Faber-Castell 1.5 tip marker. And now we can fast forward to the part where I color in these final two numbers. Okay, it is time to hit this page one last time with an eraser. And then finally, we can attach our date page to the top of our existing page with the date right there on the top. Finally, a year at a glance that I can be happy with. Okay, flipping us over now because I want to add some decorative elements to this page. I decided to actually use one of my own illustrations as inspiration. I thought this idea of having some wildflowers coming out from the bottom of the calendar and the top would be a really pretty decorative thing to add. So here you can see me just penciling in all of my flowers before I put it down in ink. As I'm drawing these, I'm using the inspiration in those illustrated flowers I drew some time ago. And I'm also thinking about the angles. I want everything to feel like it's alive and kind of bursting forward. So instead of just going straight up and down, I kind of want these flowers to be going every which way. And once I'm done with the flowers along the bottom, I'm going to flip this puppy over and we're going to draw the flowers that will be along the top. This process is essentially the same as the bottom was. The only thing I'm thinking about now is how to work around my title so that they frame my 2022 and don't end up distracting from it. Oh my goodness, we can now finally start adding some ink. You might notice that before I started inking, I did pull up my lightly glued down craft paper. I just had glued it ever so slightly because I wanted to have some flexibility. And I also drew a line across the margin in which I knew that the craft paper would cover up to that point. The idea being that I wanted all of my flowers to look like they were bursting forth out from beneath the craft paper layer. I am using a zero point 0.5 micron for that, and I am just loosely following the shapes of the flowers that I penciled in. It doesn't have to be exact. Those guidelines just kind of help me keep my flowers balanced and help the shapes all cooperate with each other. So I'm just going to ink, ink, ink until this bottom half is done. Now I can place my craft paper and just make sure all of those lines go down far enough so that I can be sure it's ready for me to move on to the top. Now we have flipped around and we are repeating the exact same process at the top. After one final craft paper placement test, it is time to glue this puppy down for reals. I'm just using a Tombow mono glue stick, which was recommended to me by some friends on Instagram. I'm actually currently investigating a lot of glue sticks, so I can't tell you if it's my favorite yet, but I'll keep you posted. After erasing all of the remaining pencil lines, I'm going to take a fine point micron and add details to all of my flowers just like this. Okay, so honestly, at this point, I was so tired of filming, and clearly I had no intention of sitting at my desk. And the whole filming struggle situation was getting old. So I didn't capture the rest of this spread, but I'm just going to meet you over on my craft table of the future and show you how all of this ended up. Okay, well, fast forward to the future. Here we are with my completed 2022 and 2023 year at a glance pages. A few things I just wanted to show you since I didn't film them because, like you saw, the filming was a whole thing. One thing I wanted to show you is just that the 2022 process, well, the final process, the process I stuck with, I repeated that right here on 2023. I tore both, so they're not exactly identical, but they both have this really floral, pretty feel. I am more than happy with these. I'm so excited. I think they turned out really great. I'll talk to you about this middle section in a minute, but I did want to show you another thing. As I was working through 2022, I made a few mistakes and then I started over kind of a few times, and that was annoying. So for 2023, when I misdated here for April, my Sunday dates were wrong. I went ahead and cut out a little bit of craft paper and I cut right on the dots. You can kind of see there. I did that so that I could just glue it on top of my mistakes and go from there. It works great. I have been doing it actually instead of whiteout now too, when I'm feeling compulsive about how things look, because I feel like it's relatively seamless and it didn't cause me to have to throw it out and start all over again. The other thing I wanted to show you is this little Dutch door. They call these cutouts Dutch doors, I believe. And I wanted my Year at a Glance page to also include some things that I just want to remember for the future. I love to collect my travel dates. I love traveling. Also, I keep a little travel scrapbooky journal that I will post about on my YouTube sometimes too. And so having all my 2022 travel on the page on the side that faces 2022 does me the favor of not having to look back at my calendar over and over and over again. So this is my travel. I think that will probably be all my travel for this year, but who knows, December could hold some things. And then the other thing that I included for this side, and 2023 could evolve because I may decide I want some more on here, but I created an other section. This is kind of like really important life events. So I took a sabbatical this year. I'm still kind of in mid-sabbatical, or at least at the tail end of it. And so I wanted to put the date that my sabbatical started, and because that's important to me. It's something I'm going to want to remember years from now. Also this year, I make no secret of the fact that, I took my sabbatical for a bipolar episode that hit me pretty darn hard. And I was hospitalized during this episode, and so I wrote down here the dates of my hospitalization. One of the reasons I did that is because this is not the first time that I've been hospitalized for my mental health. I was hospitalized about 13 years ago as well, and I am always trying to figure out the exact dates. It's easy to get blurry and cloudy in your head about things like that. I may go through and add a few other things, like when I started medications, although I mostly started them in the hospital, but when I start new medications, maybe if like somebody graduates, or if, if my sister were to get married, she's already married, but, or, really important life events that I want to just be able to see at a glance, I'll put it on my Year at a Glance page. On the 2023 side, there is nothing here, but if I had really important life events that I knew were coming up, I would add them in advance. Otherwise, I will just add things as I go, just for a quick record. This is like a quick annual record of really important, impactful things. So if you would like a little review, here is what the beginning of my bullet journal looks like so far. I'm calling it a bullet journal, but as you can see, I'm focusing a lot on planning in it. I do have these back pages, my sticky note parking lot, and I'm creating a shows to watch list. I have it written out, but I haven't put any shows on it. I am making some lists back here as well. This was going to be a mandala I was drawing on my airplane. We'll see. That may get a piece of craft paper over it, if you know what I mean. But there is going to be some checklists and stuff in here, which I'll show you more about. on the monthly and the weekly spread videos that are coming up soon, but this is to help me plan. And so once again, I've got my grids, my index, and now I have my year at a glance. And then that is followed by my word of the year, and 2023's word of the year is gonna live right here. On the next page, it is going to be my monthly spread, and I don't know, I'll give you a little peek. That's gonna be coming soon. I will show you all of that in my next video where I share my process for creating my weekly and my monthly pages. Okay, friends, thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience with my shenanigans. I hope this inspired you and also just maybe normalized all of the indecision that we all feel when we're trying to create systems and creative projects for ourselves. It's okay to think twice, to make mistakes. It's okay to let something be, and it's also okay to overthink about it. Either way, you are okay, and we get to create whatever we want to create in these journals of ours. All right, friends, keep creating, and we will see you soon.